Yes. So, like it's a general question to each one of you. What are the poetic devices that you're familiar with all this while? Yes, Arav. Metaphors, yes. Simile.
Personification.
Personification. Okay. Okay. What else? Anybody else who wants to contribute?
My alliteration.
Yeah. Alliteration. Yes. What else? Fast, fast, beta. Everybody, tell me. There are so many of them. In fact, you keep
Imagery.
using, in fact,
Imagery.
imagery. Yes. Symbols and imagery. Yes. What else?
Ma'am, is poetic device, sorry, poetic license a poetic device?
Poetic license.
Yes, ma'am.
Poetic license. Why such a question now? Poetic license. Yeah. What do you mean by that? Like when you said
Ma'am, it means that the poet can use certain words which are not, which does.
yeah, it's like you can say it's the the freedom to depart from the fact. Like it's basically whatever is the thing which is there, it is completely different from that. It's not very conventional. That is what is license, poetic license. So you tell me whether it is the same as poetic devices. Like, for example, let me guess. Like, you omit certain words and still it makes sense. Certain poetries, you will see certain words are omitted and yet it makes sense. Very crucial, you can say interjections, conjunctions, prepositions are left behind and yet it makes meaning. So that is like poetic license. That's what I understand. And yes, when we talk about poetic devices, it is completely different. It is a literary aspect of it, and you include nicely they have put it alliteration. You have repetition also, refrain. Have you heard of these names? Yes, Aishwarya, have you heard of this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, rhyme, rhythm. Okay. Now, any other one which you are aware of? And yeah, before we start today's class, I'll leave the class because I have a meeting. So around 11 o'clock, I have to meet somebody online. A meeting is there with the principal and others. So exactly at 11, I will leave the class today slightly early. And that's why a little change I did. I was planning to take up active and passive voice, but it will take quite some time to complete. So today we'll do poetic devices because I'm going to start with a new poetry of photograph. So you guys are going to do that. After that, after this, you can go back and just read this poetry at least once. And I thought that before we go into the poetry itself, it is first really correct to know the poetic devices or just revise them. You're familiar with them, and there are a few which are new. Like, for example, have you heard of something called senecdicity? Have you heard of it? No. So that will be there. Then there is transferred epithet. Has anybody heard of it? Transferred epithet. But why don't you all speak? Yes or no? Have you heard of it? No.
No,
So you'll
ma'am.
have something called transferred epithet, which is used in this poem. This one, which we are going to do, a photograph, it is going to be there. So we'll talk about transferred epithet. We are going to talk about oxymoron. Have you heard of oxymoron? Earlier, have
Yes,
you
ma'am.
heard of?
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, oxymoron, you'll have transferred epithet, you'll have synecdoche, paradox. These are the new poetic devices that you will come across. In fact, the previous, the lessons that have been taught in 10th standard, had it been the previous syllabus, maybe a few of them you would have been familiar. But this time, I guess in 10th standard, a few of them were missing. So we'll take up all these things because all these three names that I said, you're going to use, like you will come across these three in this particular poem that we are going to do a photograph. One is oxymoron, the second is paradox, even transferred epithet, and in some other you'll come across synecdoche. So these are a few. So I felt that before we start, at least you should have a feel of it. And I've tried to make a PPT, where in fact this was done by your previous batch, the students who were there, like the ones who are in 12th standard right now. So these children have done a commendable job, like by compiling the entire poetic devices together and taking examples from your 10th standard as well, so that relating to it becomes very easy. Okay, now your attendance is complete. I'm just taking this, the last one. 28 of you are present. Okay. Now let me share the screen and you can have a look. This presentation was done by Ananya Rawat and Kushi Bhamri of your 12th standard. When we did this entire poetic devices, they took up and they made this PPT. It is very nicely done with examples from different places. They have done that. They've divided poetry and prose. They have taken up the common ones, common literary poetic devices like metaphor, simile, alliteration, repetition, personification, anaphora, enjambment, enjambment. Then you have hyperbole and rhyme scheme, transferred epithet, synecdoche. You have euphemism. Then you have onomatopoeia, refrain, oxymoron, antithesis, allusion, and all that. So this is what they have done and taken examples from the ones that you have already done and some of the new ones as well. Now, let's begin by this. In fact, Arav, why don't you read a few of the slides loudly for the class? Poetic devices. Mm-hmm. Yeah, both of you can take turns. First Sharma, then Grewal also. Can you read this? No. A prose is a written or a spoken language in its ordinary form, which is usually contrasted with poems because it lacks the rhythm and rhyme. Now, whatever he's read, now to make it in a very simple manner, poetry is a form of literature which uses a distinctive style. Meaning it is very different, you can make out, and style and rhythm to present and express an idea or a feeling. It's basically poetry is a feeling, the emotion, the thought, everything which you can feel. Now, poetry is when an emotion has found its thought and the thought has found its word. This is what Robert Frost had said long back. Now, how do you distinguish between a poetry and a prose? Now, poetry pays attention to and rhyme. You'll see, but at times, you'll come across now that there might not be even rhyming, and it at times looks very prose-like. It's called prose, yeah, and in fact, you'll come up. Okay, just actually there is a aircraft movement up, so maybe that's why it is cracking. Now, am I audible? Am I audible now? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes, ma'am.
basically, when we are talking about poetry, we should also know about prose. We should know how to distinguish between both of them. Then only we realize that like more you will know about the poetry which is being there. Now, poetry pays special attention to rhyme and rhythm. At times, you will see in nowadays, in fact, when you read the modern poetry, especially, and you will come across in your 11th standard as well, that there are certain poems which do not have this, they are written in, you can say, free verse. There is not much like rhyme, or there is that, that it will be completely very rhythmic or anything, unlike the ones which we have done in junior classes where twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, these kind of rhyme and rhythm fall and everything is there. But then poetry is all about that only, that rhyme and rhythm. And there is at times, like, the ideas are they are very figurative. And it is like you have to feel it. There is a lot of emotion in it. So those kind of differences you have. Whereas in prose, it doesn't involve rhyme and rhythm. Ideas are written in sentences and are further arranged in paragraphs, and then language is natural, and of course grammar is a very important part of prose. However, in poetry you will see that it is at times that the grammar is not there, like it is just the expression which is there, but grammar is missing. It's like at times you will see the preposition, conjunctions, interjections, you'll see them missing even there. In fact, then even language is figurative and rhythmic. More than one reading may be required to know the true meaning in poetry. So, like for example, the poetry might be interpreted in a very different manner by different people. For example, and of course in different levels. See, for example, in 11th standard, when you are there, when you read this poetry, maybe you'll read it mechanically also. You might think that it is to be done because we have to appear in an examination. As time progresses, you'll realize that it is not so. Poetry has got a lot of lot of depth in it. Like for example, you must have read a poem called Robert Frost's "The Road Not Taken." Have you heard of it? Have you read it also?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. It, I feel it is one of the best written poetry till date I have read. And whenever I read it, I find different meaning at different stage of life. When I read when I was a kid, it was different. When I came to that age where I was 20, 25, 30, it was a very different thing. And today at my age at 45, I still feel that it has a different connotation altogether. So every stage, I feel it has touched the chord in my life. Like for example, the way he said that it is like a fork. It moves into two different directions, and a person is in dilemma which one to choose. That is something which always I feel attracts me. The same manner, there are so many other poetries which have like they'll kind of more than one reading is required to understand it, to interpret it. Now, whereas in what do you call prose, it is simply written, grammatically correct and all that. Language is natural. There is a flow to it. You read it once, maximum twice, and you understand the whole aspect of it. Now, coming to prose and poetry, these are the things how different it is, that the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. Now see the rhyme, rhythm, fall and everything in this, the intonation and all. Whereas in prose, the woods look lovely against the setting darkness. As I gaze into the mysterious depths of the forest, I feel like lingering here longer. However, I have pending appointments to keep and much distance to cover before I settle in for the night, or else I'll be late for all of them. Now, see the same thought. but in different manner it has been expressed. One is by Robert Frost, which is the woods are lovely, dark and deep and all that. And the other one, the prose, it has been interpreted in that manner. And you can see their complete sentence in prose. Whereas in poetry, it is very different. Now, coming back after poetry and prose being differentiated, we come to poetic devices. Now, what are poetic devices? A poetic device is a deliberate use of words, phrases, sounds, and even shapes to convey meaning. I repeat again, a poetic device is a deliberate use of words, phrases, sounds, and even shapes to convey meaning. So, in poetic devices, there are different poetic devices. Till now, you must have used a few of them, and you're going to use a few more new ones and during your 11th and 12th grade. Now, coming to metaphor, which is very easy, you must have already done it. I just repeat it for your convenience. Metaphor is a figure of speech which compares and describes something as something else. There is a comparison, the direct comparison is there. She enters the thickness and a machine starts up. In fact, this poetry you will come across in your 11th grade, and this poetry is the laburnum top. In this, you will see a lot of metaphor being used. And who am I? I am the rain, I am the poem of earth. This is what it is. And simile. Simile is a figure of speech which makes a comparison between two things with respect to specific. So I have given you one example from 11th grade, sleek as a lizard. It is like it has been described here, and it is in the poetry, the laburnum top. And you must have done the custard dragon and something like that in your 10th standard. Am I right? What was the poetry called?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is like Custard the dragon had big sharp teeth, mouth like a fireplace, chimney for a nose. So as and like, there is a comparison. There is a thing with two things which are most important. One is as, one is like. There is a comparison. Now coming to alliteration. Alliteration refers to the repetition of a consonant sound in two or more neighboring words or syllables. So basically saying that there is a repetition of consonants. Of course, you guys must be knowing what is a consonant and a vowel. Anybody who can tell me what is a consonant, what is a vowel? Very easy. I think nursery class and all that we do. What is a consonant? What is a vowel? Give me examples. Anybody, beta? Yeah,
Ma'am,
what happened?
consonants are the
Ah,
letters
mhm.
except for A, E, I, O, U, and vowels
Yes.
are the letters A, E, I, O, U.
Okay. So the sound, that vowel sound, and there is consonant sound. So here it is the consonant sound. When you have to this consonant sounds and neighboring words or syllables, that's when we say it is an alliteration. Like, was it the time I realized that hell and heaven, I found my mind was really mine to use whichever way. So you see the use of W. So this is how the alliteration is. In fact, in under this we come across consonants and assonants also. When we are doing that alliteration, we come back to consonants as well. One relating to the vowels, one relating to the consonants. Now, repetition. The next one is repetition. Repetition is a poetic device that repeats the same words or phrases a few times to make an idea clearer and more memorable. I repeat, repetition is a poetic device that repeats the same words or phrases a few times to make an idea clearer and more memorable. Just see the repetition of these phrases, the words also. The words the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. So the entire phrase has been repeated, the line. So you can see the repetition. Now coming to personification. When
Excuse,
it, yes, beta.
ma'am. Only the repeat, ma'am. If there is repetition of line, then only we will use.
We will consider repetition.
Yes. If it is the first word with the next first in fact word and the next line the first word, if they are repeating, it is called refrain. I hope it will remember. One is repetition, the complete line is being repeated, whereas when you repeat just the first word and the second line the first word again, it is your refrain. So all I mean sorry, that is we'll come to that anaphora in fact, and we'll come to refrain when the entire line is repeated in the next paragraph as well and all that. We'll come one by one. Just a second. So sorry, I just like instead of anaphora, I said refrain. I'm really sorry. Now repeat after repetition, we have personification. When an inanimate object, meaning something which is non-living, is described using human characteristics, meaning it is given a human form. Any non-living object, when it is given a human characteristic, it is known as personification. I'm sure this is one which you all must have read about it also, must have used personification quite a few times. Like, for example, no sun, bury the feet in the shadow. Small twigs, stiff and when it's not visible, exertion, long crab goes shuffling under the roof. So all this compare, like, when you have personification, the non-living thing is compared to the living form. Now coming to anaphora, which was I was discussing earlier. Anaphora is a poetic device in which a word or group of words is repeated at the beginning of two or more successive lines. Now see this. They do not, they do not, they do not. It is constantly being repeated. Just the first one, not the entire line, but just a part of it. That's when it is anaphora. Now, we have something which is, have you heard of this new one, enjambment? Have you heard of it? Anybody who's heard this name earlier? Enjambment. In fact, poetic device will take two more classes to do it. Again, more if we discuss, then only it will be easier for you to understand. Enjambment. Anybody who's got an idea what is an enjambment? No. Okay. No. Okay. When a sentence continues in two or more lines in a poem without any terminal punctuation is referred as enjambment. Now, meaning is in simple layman English, if I explain, one line looks incomplete without the next line. The first line of the poem is not complete without the help of the second line. When you see that, and there is no punctuation, meaning comma, full stop, colon, semicolon, there is nothing in the first line. Rather, it looks in continuity. I repeat again, when the first line, when you see, it keeps on continuing to the next two, three lines. That's when you see it is called enjambment. When a sentence continues in two or more lines in a poem without any terminal punctuation. I hope all of you know what is punctuation. All the commas, full stops, and colon, semicolon, inverted comma, and all that is referred to as enjambment. For example, the fog comes. Now look at this. The fog comes. It doesn't make sense. So it spills over to the next line. The fog comes on little cat feet. It sits looking over harbor and city on silent hunches and then moves on. There is no comma, full stop in between. It is a continuation. That is called enjambment. Once we do the poetry, we'll be more clearer, and I'll keep pointing out what are the poetic devices. Right? Now, hyperbole. People say hyperbole, but please remember that it is hyperbole. E is the one which has been stressed. Hyperbole is a poetic device used to exaggerate and emphasize a particular something. You kind of expand a lot. You kind of give a lot of importance, or you emphasize a particular idea, or mainly you exaggerate, give a very blown up description. That is called a hyperbole. For example, you'll have this poetry in your 11th grade as well, The Voice of Rain. When you come across that, and who art thou? Said I to the soft falling shower, which strange to tell gave me an answer as here translated. I'm the poem of earth, said the voice of the rain. Eternal I rise, impalpable out of the land, and the bottomless sea. Now see how much of exaggeration has been done when it comes to bottomless sea. Sea without a bottom, is it there? Then how deep? It has been left without any kind of, thought. It is like too much of emphasis is given, too much of exaggeration is put on this. So hyperbole. Now, rhyme scheme. We all know rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme is a pattern of rhymes at the end of each line of a poem or a song. So there is this common thing, and you have, in fact, rhyme scheme. You must have done A B B A B B A, then A B B C C D D, something like that, and in different manners. So rhyme scheme also will come across. Now, transferred epithet and synecdoche. These are the two things which might be new to it, and but not very difficult to understand. Like if I put it in a very, very simple manner, transferred and epithet, you must know both the words independently. Transferred, we all know that from one to the other, like it is passed on from one to the other. So you have to keep this in mind. Transferred. Epithet means adjective or descriptive. So transferred epithet, meaning when you see an adjective, like what is the role of an adjective? Can anybody tell me? What is an adjective? Noun, pronoun, so adjective. What is an adjective?
To describe.
Yeah, what happened? Somebody was saying something.
Ma'am, to describe.
But somebody's voice is not very clear. Just see to your system. Yeah, to describe. Yes. So the adjective describes the noun. Okay. Now here in transferred epithet, it is like the entire description is passed on not to this noun which is intended to, but to a different one. Now in this figure of speech, an epithet is transferred from its proper word to another that is closely associated with it in the sentence. Now, for example, you have to understand, we'll do it in this chapter as well. There is a line here, terribly transient speech. In your poem, that is a photograph. If you have the book, you can open it and see terribly transient speech. The meaning is that if you say what is terribly transient speech, in this, what is the adjective and what is the noun? Can anybody tell me? Terribly transient speech.
Transient is adjective and feet is noun.
Okay. Anybody else? Think. And what is terribly? Yeah. And in this, wash their terribly transient feet.
Ma'am, terribly is adjective.
Yeah, so you yourself, your courage. Now, it should be used for the like, transient, terribly transient feet. Now, the description is to be describing transient, but what is it doing? It is doing the other one. It is describing the next one, that is your feet. So, and the sea which appears to have changed less, washed their terribly transient feet. In this figure of speech, an epithet or the adjective or the describing word is transferred from its proper word, that is, proper word means the noun, which it is supposed to describe, to another that is closely associated with it in the sentence. Now, there is the strokes it full, she strokes it full, then flirts out to a branch, and showing her barred face identity mask. It's like a camouflage. It is like it covers the face and all that. So how it is transferring? I'll explain. In fact, today I'll just give you one reading because, like I said, I have a meeting at 11 o'clock. This part I will again come back in the next class. That is directly transferred epithet and synecdoche and all that. Today, I'll just let me do it in a cursory manner. Next, synecdoche. Synecdoche is a figure of speech in which a part of something is used to signify the whole. Now, for example, a very easy one I'll tell you. Like, for example, boys and girls, you must be interested in, if you are interested in cricket, for example. Now, we don't describe the entire thing. What do we say if there is a winning team? So, what do we say? England won the match. We don't describe that English team won the match and all that. We just say England won the match. That is, the country won the match. But what match, what exactly the description isn't given. It's a part of it which is there. So England is described like it is said that it is the country, whereas it is the English team which has won. So that is synecdoche, a part of it. Wash their terribly transient feet. Feet is synecdoche. Now, what is feet? It is the human being, not just the feet, not just the feet of a person, but the entire existence. So, it is a part. So, synecdoche is a figure of speech in which a part of something is used to signify the whole thing. Like I said again, England won the match. It means that English team as such won the match. So we describe just a part of it. Coming to the next one, onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is one way a poet can create sounds in a poem. There are a lot of, those sounds of the birds and all the chirping and all that, which is the example of onomatopoeia. So many poems, they use these kind of, sounds. And these sounds are onomatopoeic. Till the goldfinch comes with a twitching chirp, a suddenness, a startlement at a branch, and then sleek as a lizard, and alert and abrupt, she enters the thickness, and a machine starts up of chittering and a tremor of wings and trilling. So trillings, chitterings, chirping, these are these sounds which are called onomatopoeia. Sorry. Now, antithesis. There is another one which is antithesis, that is use of opposite words in close placement, meaning just together, like one after the other. There are two words. Now, there is a difference between antithesis and oxymoron. That also we'll discuss. Now, when did my childhood go? Was it the day I ceased to be 11? Was it the time I realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography and all that? So basically saying that use of two opposite words, they're together, they're placed together, not to convey any same meaning. In oxymoron, you say that you convey the meaning in the same manner. So here it is more to do with close placement of opposite words. Now, allusion, a reference or suggestion to a historical or well-known person, place, or thing. So basically referring back to your history, referring back to the things which have happened. Now, for example, very basic example I'll give you. Some people say that, he looks, or rather, suppose somebody is a good orator. So we say he's a Mark Antony. Mark Antony was a part of Julius Caesar, which was removed from your 10th standard. But he was a big orator. I'll not go deep into it right now, but he was considered the best orator. So when somebody says, take it as a compliment if somebody says that you are Mark Antony. Or maybe if you're very good, very sharp or shrewd and all that, then also people refer. So it's basically allusion means you take reference from the past, anything from the past, historical, or a place, or it could be a thing or a person. So basically referring to the past. In this particular chapter, we'll come across allusion as well. The cardboard shows me how it was when the two girl cousins went paddling. So cardboard here is the reference back. It is the mounted photograph which is there. So how? This is like just a brief thing I've given you. In the next class when we have, I'm going to explain again in detail about the poetic devices and take up the next chapter, that is a photograph. Okay, and read the poetry and come back. Now, just a second. Okay. Now, did it make a little sense at least? I know in one reading it is not sufficient, but did it make a little sense to all of you? Yeah, can anybody just confirm that? Yeah, Kanak?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yes. So again, a little bit of discussion, maybe with a few more examples. So then it will be more clearer. But poetic device is very important. Beta, all the poems that you're going to do in 11th grade as well as in 12th grade. So poetic devices would be very, very important. Which I'll send this PPT to you. All of you can just go through it once. And also the homonyms and homophones. I forgot to do it yesterday. I'll send across that as well. Have a look the notice writing thing as well. Practice a few more, and this is what is the assignment for the whole week. In the next class on Monday when we meet, just remind me again. We'll do poetic device, another one which I'll come prepared with another PPT, so that will be easy for you to understand. Okay. Now on that note, let me wind up your class today a little early. I will join back again on Monday. Any questions and all that, you can keep and ask me. In the group, like also you're welcome. Individually also you want to contact, you're most welcome. Complete your homework, that is your holiday homework. Like I said, it will be graded as well. So don't take any chance, don't sit on it, rather submit it. Okay. Now, thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, Ara.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you.